Hi, this is Scott Patchin, and this is video 5 of 8 of what I'm calling the People-Centered Mastery series, where I cover conversations people-centered leaders have to master. And the topic for today is goal setting. And to be totally transparent with you, when I first started this series, this was not on my radar as one that I wanted to do. There's so many more fun topics, but something hit me, and it was actually triggered by something my mom brought me, and it was in her archives of Scott Patchin, and it was probably something I wrote when I was probably 11 or 12. And it's this goal right here, I resolve. And it was probably part of an activity. Back then we did penmanship. And it says, I resolve that I will try to do better in sports and in school and in anything else I do. And it was a reminder to me that even at that age, goal setting is hard. And if I look back, there's many things wrong with this goal. Even though the writing is cute, I know. So I wanted to spend time today on goal setting. So to do that, I'm going to go to a template that I actually created because I learned early on when I was working with leaders around coaching and working with teams about setting goals that goal setting is really hard. It seems so simple, but it's not. So I put together what I call the Smarter Goals worksheet. And it's just a way in which you can walk through a goal and walk out the other end of this process with a really good goal. And I think as leaders, especially as you coach your people, you need to be able to help them do that. So let me walk you through the sheet right now. If you look at the first one, one is write your goal here. And I always started out by writing it down for two reasons. One is because it's then shareable, you can share it and you can edit it. And it's important to write it down first. The second is it's a level 1 commitment to put pen to paper and say, here's my goal. And I think that's an important first step. The first part of asks around SMART is specific. And if you think of the goal that I shared with you, think of mine, better and anything else I do. There's certain words when we write that they're just not specific enough. So what you're going to find in each one of these steps, and here's the first one, is here's 4 questions to help you reframe your goal to make it more specific. And as a leader, your job is to coach people, not tell them, but coach them. And so by asking them these questions, they'll take that initial goal and then they will refine it. So use these and then very simply rewrite in the box based on the answers to those questions. And those will help make it more specific. The second part is measurable. And if you think of measurable, goals, the biggest thing is goals need to be equal to some sort of success, which is something to celebrate. And in some cases, goals often lead to failure, that's where the learning happens. Why didn't this goal work? And so by putting something measurable on there, you really help create a greater sense at the end of whether the goal, what success or failure might look like. So again, here's some questions for you to ask. So ask those. And then very simply write down whatever the refined goal is based on trying to put some measurables in there. The third step is achievable. And this is one where oftentimes achievable goals, when we write a goal, think of my goal. I will try to do better in sports than anything else that I do. It doesn't have any sort of an end point to it. So I always tell people, if it's an individual goal for development, make it less than 30 days. So it's usually a behavioral change or something they're going to go learn. Make it 7 to 30 days. If it's a bigger goal for maybe a business or a business unit, think about what the steps might be. So the goal might be out there at 6 months, but what's going to be achievable? So what might be the 3 or 4 steps to get there? So make it achievable. So ask yourself some of these questions. Again, then ultimately go down and rewrite it in a more achievable format. The next one is around results oriented. And again, you kind of get the rhythm of this now. And the 2 things I would say here is, with results, what you're trying to do is what ultimately is going to be the result of this. And the first 2, question 1 and question 3, really tie back to the input, maybe impact on the business. And then you're going to notice that middle question is there support of anyone else I need to achieve this goal? So if this is a goal with another department, it's a really good time to tie their work into someone else that they might not necessarily work with directly, but maybe indirectly because they're in different groups. So that kind of helps you drive teamwork as a leader. And then the last piece is time bound. And by now you might have time associated with it. If not, it's a good time to put some dates around it. And so then you write it, rewrite it again in that final box. Now, I want to hit the last piece, and that's excited. And here's kind of was a revelation for me, is that a lot of time the goal setting, gets kind of that process side of our brain working, and when we get to the end, we forget why we wanted to do it. And there's a great video out there in TED. It's a TED video by a guy named John Doerr, and he talks about goal setting. So it's DOERR, and I'd go take a look at it, but in it he makes the point that the why is so important with goals, because people get the what is really the easy part, but then if they don't know the why, then they're just going to kind of routinely go through it, and they aren't going to get excited about it, and probably the outcome of doing that is going to show. So the simple questions I would have, and you see that as a leader, is on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your level of excitement of this goal? And then really push people to get to an 8. To at least increase it to something that where they can get energized about it. And that's a fairly simple but critical step. And then ultimately write the final goal here. So that's how the Smarter Goals process works. And, if you think of my goals, and maybe I'll frame it around this. And I didn't obviously do that when I wrote this goal a long time ago. But the story behind this was we lost the city championship to a basketball team when I was in 5th grade. And I can look at this and know that I probably wrote that between the 2 years and wanting to win it in 6th grade. So, the funny thing is as a 5th grader, I didn't know enough to share it with my teammates. I didn't know enough to share it with my coach, and we ended up losing again in 6th grade. Although we played really hard, and I probably did get better. But I kind of just want to frame goal setting is don't take it for granted that everyone knows how to write goals. And certainly if you can help people write better goals they're more excited about, you're going to have a greater impact on them as a leader. So I end this with the way I end all of my calls or all my tutorials with kind of what I've learned to call the people-centered mantra, which is, remember leaders, listen, lead, and repeat often.